Tri-State County will soon get rid of dozens of public housing units in 3 towns.
And at a time when affordable housing is in demand, what's causing the oversupply?
WGEM's Claire Edlund is back from Pike County. So Claire, what's behind this demolition project?
Well, Daniel and Mackenzie, officials at the Pike County Housing Authority say the federal government, which funds the public housing, has cut the budget down by $120,000. As a result, they plan to sell 18 properties in Perry and Bayless because it's challenging to rent in those villages. For example, Bayless doesn't have city sewage, and people don't want to drive to a bigger town to get basic necessities. They plan to tear down 2 buildings in Pittsfield as well.
So when the Housing Authority was developed, they put together an extraordinarily large number of one-bedroom units across the county. And so out of our 228 units, we have 170 one-bedroom units. And so then, like with Pittsfield, all of those units are one-bedroom units that we would consider to demolish just because we have too many of them.
Bruns says over the last 3 years, they've averaged 40 vacancies per month, which is why the federal government cut their funding in the first place. And Bruns says people who still live in a building adjoined with those vacancies will get a tenant protection voucher, and that is so they can get affordable housing unit with a private owner, which might mean staying in their own unit. Mackenzie?
All right, thank you, Claire. And Bruns says if demand is high enough, they might apply for a tax credit program, which would allow them to build the more desired single-family units. And he says those tenants could even buy and eventually own that property.